Hi, everybody. It's Joe Chaffee. Let's set you up for what's going to be going on over the next few days as we have this cold front that's moving on through for tomorrow morning, and it actually changes precipitation over to snow in northeastern Pennsylvania briefly into northwest New Jersey, but it doesn't amount to much. And then out it goes. In comes a fairly chilly air mass for Wednesday night and Thursday, high pressure builds to the north. And now here's our storm system. This is the GFS now. And you see how it loses the primary, secondary develops along the South Carolina coast, runs up to North Carolina. So by 1 o'clock in the morning on Friday, there's snow on the doorstep of New York City and snow covering southern New Jersey, all of southeastern Pennsylvania down into Maryland and Delaware. And then the low intensifies. Snow starts to spread toward past eastern Long Island by Sunday morning. Snows for a good part into the afternoon. Now there's your low, and if it were tracking more northeast, we would probably get into some pretty decent snows here. It actually would probably even be cold enough for most of it to stick, but the low instead translates east-northeast, still has us in some measurable snow by Friday evening, and then it's all done as it moves away. Fairly deep system, but it doesn't lift up northward because when you look at what's going on at the upper levels of the atmosphere, and this is the big problem, and this is the problem that models have been having all winter long, where they initially show some kind of a phase or at least enough room for these weather systems to lift northward and intensify into major systems, and they wind up doing something else because everything is not timed correctly. And there's this strong northwest flow in eastern Canada, and here's your weather system, and it just can't seem, the flow along the east coast is west-southwest. It would need to be more southwesterly, and it's not until after it goes by us that the trough swings around negative and lifts up to the northeast. Now here's that next system here, and that's the other problem too. You have this next system that's kicking it along. So unlike, if you remember with the blizzard, we were in a situation not that dissimilar to this, but the low wound up being tucked in for about 6 to 8 hours, and that made all the difference. But that's not going to happen this time as the kicker moves along. Now the European wants to do a little bit more with this, whereas the GFS kind of loses it a little bit. And since the European, I think, has been a little more reliable through this whole sequence of events, it was the first one to shift away from a northern track. And the others seem to have followed suit. So I'm thinking the European might hold on to something a little more vigorous with a little more snow. This would be for Saturday night, early Sunday morning. And it's still cold into Monday, but then after that, we start to warm up. And the deep low that goes up into Minnesota is going to bring in a southwest flow here beginning on Tuesday and lasting through Wednesday. And it's not until maybe on Thursday that we get some kind of a weather front to move on through with low pressure, and then that goes by, and it's got other systems after that. I'm not so sure how this is all going to play out, but then beyond next week, the pattern still doesn't look favorable at all. So this is the last gasp here, so it's whatever we get. Now, I will say the GFS tonight did produce a few inches out of this, even though we never really get into any kind of really heavy snow bands. I'll get a little closer so you can see close up what it does, but it's got, basically for Long Island back toward New York City, central New Jersey, an area of 2 to 3 inch snows. I don't think that's unreasonable in this situation, but it's going to depend on how the precip lines up. I'm thinking that there could be up to a few inches over a fairly large area, and the model kind of covers that. So I'm not going to shy away from this at all, forecast-wise. I think at this point, it would have, if we were going to see some kind of a northward shift, we probably would have already started seeing it. We're not seeing it in the NAM. When we looked at the NAM tonight, and I'll quickly switch to that. The NAM model, there we go. The NAM actually has less snow, according to an inch or so. I'm not sure why it does that, but let me get to there we go, get that. So you can see what the NAM does. on a close-up basis. And basically, it kind of gets the same thing, although it breaks out the snow a little early. It's got snow aloft over us by Thursday night, and then snowing, from 1 o'clock in the morning on into through Friday morning. But then by Friday afternoon, it's already drying out because the low is pulling away. The low on the NAM pulls almost straight east for a while before it starts to turn a little more east-northeast. So that also you can see the next system getting ready, with snows dropping down through Michigan and Ohio with low pressure up in northwestern Wisconsin. That's going to drop southeastward. So we'll see how this all plays out. Wait for the day runs to see what they do and the in-between runs, because I'm sure there'll probably be some variation. But without this low kicking northward, the blizzard, remember, was off the Delaware coast before it moved out straight east. And this is a couple of hundred miles further south. That makes all the difference in the world, because we're not going to get into any of this core heavy precip if the low stays down here. It needs to be up in this position someplace. So let's see what the day runs do, and I'll keep you posted.